Good morning. Thank you for joining us today for our presentation on Character of Discharge Review. My name is Maria Ceballos-Zagales. I am a staff attorney at an Equal Justice Works Fellow with the Veterans Law Center at Bay Area Legal Services. I am here today with my colleague, Jennifer Broomfield, who is going to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jen Broomfield. I am a staff attorney at Bay Area Legal Services Veterans Law Center, and I am the medical legal partnership attorney for the Haley VA.
One second. Okay. For today's agenda, we're going to review three major topics. First, we're going to discuss the general eligibility requirements to receive VA benefits. Then we're going to provide you with an overview of character of discharge reviews, the difference between a character of discharge review and a discharge upgrade. And then we're going to discuss the eligibility criteria and application process for a character of discharge review. And finally, we'll discuss some additional considerations, including don't ask, don't tell, and the insanity exception, which is always a little tricky. Then we will wrap up our session by providing any answers to questions you may have. So let's start at the beginning. Everyone who has received a certificate, everyone who has served has received a certificate of release of discharge, commonly referred to as DD-214, when they leave service. And this is what the form looks like. I'm not sure if it's, the PowerPoint is changing. One second, I'm sorry, we seem to be having some technical issues. My slides are not going forward. Okay. 1 second. There we go. Apologize for that. Here we go. So this is a sample of what that form looks like. Here at the bottom, under number 23, you can find the type of separation. And there, it's where your type of discharge is going to be listed. And it would give you an idea as to whether or not you can apply for a character of discharge review, which we're going to discuss in more detail a little later. Next, let's talk about who in general terms is eligible for VA benefits. So you are eligible for VA benefits if one of these things occurred. You enlisted after September 7th, 1980, or you enter active duty after October 16th, 1981. You've served for 24 continuous months, or for the full period in which you were called for active duty, unless certain things happen and you were discharged earlier. For example, you may have an accident may have occurred that caused a disability, or exacerbated an injury because of your active duty service and you were discharged as a result. You were discharged for hardship or an early out, or you served prior to September 7th, 1980, and you received an honorable or general under honorable conditions discharge. So these are the things that in general terms would allow you to be eligible for VA benefits. Now, Jen is going to provide you with an overview of what is a character of discharge and the eligibility criteria.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Maria. And I just want to clarify, I realized our slide may have been a little unclear, and that's my fault. That was my slide that I created. Obviously, if you entered before 1980, like if you were a Korean War veteran, you're still eligible for VA benefits. Those are just the things you would have to qualify for if you entered after 1980. But okay, VA character discharge overview. It's a few slides back.
Sorry, I'm really having some difficulty with my computer.
For some reason, it's advancing, not
Advancing,
going
not
back.
going- Yes, okay. Sorry, everybody.
So the VA character of discharge, it's an alternative to a discharge upgrade. And we're going to talk, yep, there we, oh, no, back one more. No, yeah, perfect. It's an alternative to a discharge upgrade, and a discharge upgrade we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. That could be its own separate training, but that is when you apply to the Department of Defense, your branch of service, for a discharge upgrade if you received anything other than a honorable or general under honorable. And that can be a very long, arduous process. The character of discharge through the VA is not going to change your DD 214, but it will allow you most benefits through the VA. And so if it's approved. And so veterans with an other than honorable, OTH, bad conduct, dishonorable, or dismissal discharge can apply for a VA character of discharge determination in addition to or instead of applying to the Department of Defense for a discharge upgrade. We generally recommend to veterans you do both because the information you're going to need for both is pretty much the same. You're going to craft your argument a little differently, whether you're doing a discharge upgrade or a character of discharge review, but a character of discharge review may be quicker. And if the thing you're most interested in is getting VA benefits, it may be an easier thing to achieve. So you can request a review if your discharge will be considered other than dishonorable for the purposes of accessing VA healthcare and benefits. That's the language that the VA uses. They're saying, we're not saying that your discharge is honorable or general. We're just saying that for the purposes of VA benefits, it's other than dishonorable. It should be triggered anytime you apply for a benefit, whether it's going for VA healthcare or applying for service-connected compensation. But we recommend that you kind of put it out there, and Marie's going to talk more about this later, and specifically request as you're applying for these things that they do a character of discharge review. And you can submit a statement in support of claim making that request. Next slide, please, Maria. Okay, so what's the difference between the character of discharge and the discharge upgrade? Well, first, where you're making the request is different, right? So if you're doing it for a character of discharge by the VA, obviously you're applying to the VA. Whereas a discharge upgrade is made to the Department of Defense, and more specifically, the specific service that you served at. So Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. A positive determination of a character of discharge makes you eligible for most VA benefits with the notable exception of not the GI Bill. Because the only way you get the GI Bill is if you have an honorable discharge. Whereas a discharge upgrade through the Department of Defense gets you a new DD 214 that changes the narrative of your discharge, the reason for separation, and if you ask for it and get it, a change in the re-enlistment code, possibly making you eligible to re-enlist. If you do the character of discharge first, or if you get it first, it's persuasive authority in your application for a discharge upgrade, meaning the board, the discharge upgrade boards don't have to say, oh, the VA gave this veteran a discharge upgrade, so, or a discharge determination positively. So we're going to give a discharge upgrade, but they can take it into consideration. Whereas if you get your discharge upgrade first, that's controlling authority for the VA, and they have to honor it. So if you get an honorable discharge, the VA is going to have to see you as honorable as a result of that upgrade. With VA character of discharge, the mental health issue doesn't need to be the cause of the discharge, right? So it doesn't be the behavior that you were engaging in was caused by, say, PTSD, and so that's why you got the discharge. Whereas with the discharge upgrade, the mental health issue has to have a causal relationship to the behavior that led to the discharge. So it's a little bit narrower field when you're doing discharge upgrade. Next slide, Maria. And just to review, there are some types of discharges that are eligible for a VA character of discharge review and some that are not. So if you have obviously an honorable discharge, you don't need a VA character of discharge review because that's the highest one, you're getting all the benefits. Same for general. So if you had a general and you wanted to be able to get a GI Bill benefit, you would have to go through the Department of Defense getting a discharge upgrade because you cannot get a COD through the VA for a general. Also uncharacterized, which those can be, you know, if somebody separated from the service very early on for family reasons or whatever, sometimes it's not characterized. All of the other ones are eligible for VA character of discharge. So other than honorable, which is probably the most common that we see, bad conduct discharges, dishonorable discharges, and dismissal. Those can all be reviewed by the VA for a character of discharge. Next slide, Maria. Okay. And with the VA, in terms of being barred from getting health care, there are two kinds of bars. One is called statutory, and the other is regulatory. With the statutory bar, you cannot get any VA health care unless you get either a favorable character of discharge determination from the VA or a discharge upgrade. And the statutory bars are if you desert, if you're a conscientious objector who refused to follow lawful orders, if you were an alien during a period of hostilities when you requested your release, or resignation of an officer for the good of the service. I have to say that those are not very common in the veterans that we serve. What we serve tend to be more regulatory bars, and that's a good thing because if you were barred through the regulations as opposed to the statute, you would still be eligible for some VA health care even without a favorable character of discharge or discharge upgrade. And that's important to know. So if you have, say, for example, service-connected post-traumatic stress disorder, you're eligible for mental health care under Chapter 17 through the VA, even if you don't have a character of discharge positive determination or a discharge upgrade. Very important to know that in case the VA denies you, you can say, oh no, but wait, look, it was a regulatory bar. I have a service-connected condition. I should be able to get my mental health care. But these are the kinds of things that we typically see when we're doing character of discharge determinations, and that's willful and persistent misconduct. So let's say you were discharged for repeatedly coming up with dirty urines for marijuana use, right? Moral turpitude, discharge in lieu of a court martial, so that, which is kind of like a plea deal in civilian world, right? If you took the discharge in lieu of getting a general court martial, that's a regulatory bar. Mutiny or spying, and homosexual conduct with aggravated circumstances. So of course, under Don't Ask, the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you can't be discharged for your LGBTQ status, but you can be if there are aggravated circumstances. And those are things like, for example, sexual assault, committing a sexual assault in addition to your LGBTQ status. Okay, and now Marie's going to share, okay, we've talked about what a character of discharge is. How do you make it happen? And Marie is going to share that information with you now.
Okay, so there really is no specific form that you can file for a character of discharge. Instead, the VA actually provides two options for you to do that will actually trigger a character of discharge review. And the first option that I'm going to talk about is actually the preferred method. And under this option, what you would do is you would apply for a benefit with the Veterans Benefit Administration. And so you can use different forms depending on the specific facts of your desire to receive services or benefits. So if you, for example, have a disability that resulted from your service, you can file for compensation. And that form would be 21-526-EZ. If you are elderly or disabled and you have low income, you can file for pension benefits. And that form would be 21-527-EZ. Now, if you do not have any disabilities, but you still want to have the access to benefits, what we recommend is that you file for a certificate of eligibility for a VA home loan. And that would be form 26-1880. This doesn't mean that you're going to have to purchase a home. It just provides a way for you to be able to receive that character of discharge review. It acknowledges that you may be able to obtain a VA loan, and that's what's going to trigger the review. Now, once you filed the forms to receive benefits, you also want to file Form 214138. That's called the Statement in Support of Claim. And in that form, you want to request a character of discharge review and a personal appearance hearing, which I'm going to talk about in the next slide, what specific language you would want to use when you are doing so, because with the VA, it's very important to use particular language that will trigger certain action by the VA. So the second option for you to attain a character of discharge review is to make a request through the VA Health Administration Eligibility Office. Now, this can be a little tricky, especially nowadays, and that's why this is not always the preferred method, because it would basically require you to speak directly with someone in that office, either at a VA hospital or trying to reach them, especially now with COVID times. That is almost impossible. Many offices are closed, or the amount of time that is taking to get an appointment is just really not suitable to getting this moving in the right direction fast enough. But if you are able to get a hold of the VA eligibility office and you want to proceed with this option, what you want to do is request for them to fill out what is called Form 107131, the exchange of beneficiary information and request for administrative and adjudicative action. And in that form, you're going to request a character of discharge review. And the language that you want to use is the one that we have here on the slide. I request a hearing on the issue of my character of discharge. That way, you're all both triggering the character of discharge review and requesting the hearing. You want to have a copy of that form with you when the officer completes it at the VA, and you're going to file that copy with the 214138. Now, either option that you're following, you also want to make sure that you take into account a couple of other things. For example, if this is the second time or third time that you are applying because you've been denied in the past, then on that VA form 214138, you want to specifically state the attached claimant statement provides new and material evidence on the issue of character of discharge to reopen the claim. That sentence lets them know that you are submitting something new evidence, new information, something that's different from the previous time that you filed, so that they are going to look at your application with new eyes. You also want to provide supporting evidence to validate your claim. You can do that with the application, or you can do that at the hearing. And some examples of this are statements from your family, statements from yourself regarding what happened during the service that caused the misconduct. You want to, if you have the ability to do so, get statements from commanders, fellow service members, medical opinions, treatment records. But again, specifically when it comes to medical opinions, it's very important that the medical professional understands that when they're providing their opinion, they're focusing on how the condition, such as, for example, PTSD, led to the misconduct while in service. They don't want them to focus on how that condition is currently affecting your life, because that's really not the measure that the VA looks at when it comes to a character of discharge review. Okay, next, I'm going to kind of share with you some common errors that we see when the VA is looking at character of discharge reviews. And the first one is a failure to recognize multiple enlistment periods. This is actually fairly common. So it's important that you are aware of that. If you have served in different enlistment periods, you should have a DD-214 for each one. And if you have received an honorable discharge in any of those, then you are eligible for benefits for any conditions that arose during that honorable service. Now, what sometimes does happen is that you only get one DD-214 for multiple enlistment periods, and sadly, many times that form only shows the other than honorable discharge. So you want to be able to get that changed, and that is something that you can request through the VA. Now, there sometimes also are factual errors in the decision. So this is, for example, where the claim is that the service member went AWOL for 100 days when it really was only 10 days. It's just a typo. There's an error in the actual documents that aren't, it's not clearly depicting the reality of what occurred. There's also the benefit of the doubt rule. And so sometimes employees at the VA are not familiar with all the rules, and they believe that an applicant would be ineligible to apply for anything because they're not considered a veteran under VA law. And this is simply not true. If you served, you are eligible to apply for these type of reviews. And the last one, this is not the only errors that have happened. These are just some common ones that we see. And the last one I'm going to talk about today is just a general failure to consider all evidence on the record. For example, not taking into account a recorded incident that demonstrates why the event that led to the other honorable discharge occurred. Now, Jen is going to share with you some additional considerations to think through as you're applying for these upgrades.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. So Maria just mentioned the first multiple periods of enlistment, re-enlistment. All you need is one enlistment period where you had a honorable or a general under honorable discharge, and you would be eligible for VA benefits. So if you do have the DD 214 that just has, you only have one for the multiple enlistments, it can get a little tricky. It may not be clear that you had an honorable period, but like Maria said, you can request through your branch of service how to get it changed. Then also the don't ask, don't tell policy, which many LGBTQ veterans were discharged under, has been repealed 10 years ago. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a minute, because the VA has come out with a new pronouncement and a new plan for how they're going to respond to veterans who were discharged under don't ask, don't tell. And that was the only reason they were discharged. So they weren't discharged under don't ask, don't tell and substance abuse and going AWOL. It was just don't ask, don't tell. We're also going to talk a little bit about the insanity exception and how that might apply. It's a tricky and complicated issue. So if you think that that might apply to you, you're definitely going to want to call us to get some more guidance. There are also some benefits you can get anyway, even if you get a positive character of discharge determination. And then just a reminder that even if you do get a positive character of discharge determination, the GI Bill is still going to be closed to you unless you get a discharge upgrade as well. Next slide. So prior to this new guidance, if you were discharged under don't ask, don't tell, you were going to have to either get a discharge upgrade or go through the whole character of discharge process through the VA. Under the new guidance, and it's not clear exactly how this is all going to play out, but there is a blog from the VA that you might want to review. And I think Paul put that in the chat box. Under this new guidance, if you were discharged just under don't ask, don't tell, or a similar earlier policy, basically based on your sexual orientation or gender identity, you are now eligible for most VA benefits, not including the GI Bill, even if you haven't gotten your discharge upgrade yet. It has to be limited. The discharge has to be limited to just don't ask, don't tell. If there were other issues, substance abuse or a pattern of misconduct, you're going to need to proactively request the character of discharge review or discharge upgrade. Next slide. So the insanity exception. The insanity exception, it's an interesting word, right? Because if no doctor is going to diagnose you as insane, nor is the VA's definition of insanity the same as criminal courts define insane when they find somebody not guilty by reason of insanity. So this is what the VA says. If you were experiencing mental health issues at the time of your discharge, the insanity exception may apply if you had a mental condition that caused you to deviate from the normal method of behavior or interfere with the peace of society or depart from communities, from the standards of your community. Note that it doesn't need to be the mental health condition that causes the behavior that leads to the discharge. That's specific to a discharge upgrade, right? If you want a discharge upgrade based on your PTSD status, you have to be able to demonstrate that your PTSD status was what led to the behavior that led to your discharge. With the VA, the mental health issue needs only be concurrent, meaning happening at the same time as the behavior that led to the discharge. So it gives a little more grace and is in that sense a little bit easier, but it's kind of a squishy definition and can be kind of complicated and confusing to parse out. Next slide. So even while you're waiting for a character of discharge determination, or if you do not get a positive character of discharge determination, or you're decided to apply for a discharge upgrade and you're waiting, there are still services available, namely therapy and counseling for any combat veterans or any veterans who experience military sexual trauma, any medical care related to the sexual assault, and housing services for veterans experiencing homelessness. Now, that's not available if you have a fully dishonorable discharge, but if you have an OTH or a bad conduct and you're homeless, there are still housing services that are available even while you're waiting for the character of discharge determination or discharge upgrade. And now I'm going to turn it over to Maria, who's going to discuss some resources that are available. You're on mute, Maria.
So really hope this overview has been a helpful start to the character of discharge review process, but there is more to learn that we can cover in one session. And so here are some resources that would be useful for you to gain a deeper understanding of the character of discharge process. And we're going to put those on the chat to make them available to you. You can also contact us at the Florida Veterans Legal Helpline, and this is the number 866-486-6161. And our call center is typically open Monday through Friday from 9 to 4:30. Now we are going to leave it open for any questions you may have.
And our colleague Allison has been monitoring the chat. Are there any questions, Allison?
There are no questions in the chat at this time.
Okay. Well, we welcome you to call the Veterans Legal Helpline should you have any questions after viewing this, and you will be screened, and if eligible, you will be set for an appointment with one of our attorneys to discuss this character of discharge and/or discharge upgrade process. We hope this has been helpful for you, and please call if you have any questions. Maria, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Have a great rest of your weekend.
Great. Thank you all.